Hello, my name's Kim Flintoff. I'm the Learning Futures Advisor at Curtin University in Western Australia. I've been asked to talk today about what the future experience of being a learner in our more digital and virtualised world is likely to be like. And to begin that, I'd like to relate some stories of some programs that we've been engaging with over the last couple of years through our Learning Futures network, and look at how they might be seen as signals for how we're moving forward and how the experience of being a learner might be changing into the foreseeable future. I'd begin by telling a few stories, and the first one I'd like to tell about is the smart furniture project that we're running with Cecil Andrews College. Cecil Andrews conceived of the project and have done the bulk of the work on the project, and that's the way that our network works, is that members bring ideas to the group, put them forward and create opportunities for others to engage. So it's been fantastic having Stella Ginman steering this project, and she's been able to draw together not only us at Curtin University to contribute through the expertise of our engineering and our sustainability areas, but also to engage with Russ Scott from Vortals, which is a VR platform, to engage with the entry-level recruitment team at Western Power, to work with Isolate, as Craig Power's engineering firm, and Darren Lohman at Greenbatch, which is a plastics recycling initiative that began a couple of years ago here in Western Australia. This project undertakes to allow high school students from Cecil Andrews College to work with Greenbatch and the engineers and the VR platform, and drawing on expertise from Western Power and the university to design and create some smart outdoor furniture using recycled plastic materials as the building materials. And this certainly raises the awareness of sustainability. It incorporates digital technologies. It incorporates talent identification to some extent with the entry-level recruitment process, people from Western Power, where they're able to look at and see potential future employees to begin to shape and make those people aware of the future needs of organisations like Western Power. Vortals allows students to visualise the materials and to present their materials and present their designs in various ways. The engineering expertise from Isolate means that Craig Power can mentor the students to get them to really take a deep dive into the whole process of design and engineering the prototypes and the final built products that will emerge. Darren from Greenbatch is an innovator in his own right, and has taken Greenbatch from a late night thought to a fully realised initiative that now draws on schools and other organisations to provide recyclable plastic materials, which are then processed into other materials, and also playing a huge sustainability role and an awareness raising exercise here in Western Australia. So this highlights how the collaborative and the connectedness and the real world engagement provides the basis for learning, and increasingly I think that's something that we'll see moving ahead. Another project, and you'll recognise Russ Scott from Vortals is present in this one as well. But this was the Lian, we're calling it the Lian Virtual Reality Project. The Lian Ocean Endeavour Foundation is a not-for-profit organisation operating out of Fremantle Harbour in Western Australia, and they operate and maintain the Lian Sail Training Ship. And essentially what happens is that people sign up, they take a voyage on the ship, they train and learn how to operate the ship. They also have a intensive leadership experience, and they start to take on a lot of understanding and insights around what it's required to be a leader and all the qualities that come to bear. So being a member of a crew and stepping into leadership roles within that crew on a vessel which may have 30 to 40 people on board at any given time. And the Lian, being a not-for-profit, also, like many not-for-profits, has limited funds and limited resources to be able to promote and to market itself. And that's where one of the teachers, Tim Rowbury at John Curtin College of the Arts, was able to present an opportunity to his students to be able to create some 360-degree video and virtual reality assets for the Lian, which provide a learning experience for the students themselves into design and to digital creation, and tapping increasingly into a virtualized experience. As that program began to progress, Tim realised that his students needed a lot more professional and industry connections, And so through the university, we were able to negotiate that some master's level interns would be able to complete their internship on the Lian. So now we have a 5-year arrangement with the Lian where we put some master's level interns down there, and they project manage and oversee this whole project moving into the future. So they scope and sequence the entire thing. And they also provide a degree of professional and technical expertise in terms of the planning and running of the operation. Now for that they get academic credit, and that contributes to the completion of their master's qualifications at the university. Additionally, they also get recognition for mentoring the students under a different program called Curtin Extra, which is focused on their community service, their leadership and similar qualities. And that gets recognised in an additional certificate upon graduation. And Russ from Vortals is there as the genuine article of a fully fledged industry professional, deeply immersed in the industry, masses of experience behind him, and providing a platform and insights that can inform everybody in this process. So the Lian starts to understand its needs more effectively. The master's level interns are getting increasingly high level networking experience and industry level guidance. The students from the high school are also similarly can start to see where the work that they're doing is taking them in potential future pathways. And the university sits there as a backdrop, coordinating some of this through the Learning Futures Network, also working with shaping and providing assets, access to some of the assets that may be required to realise this project. So we've given some technical advice on the sorts of equipment that might be needed to be purchased. We've assisted on drone shoots. We've helped with planning and outlining some of the documentary elements that have been required. Students from the high school have had the opportunity to meet with professional staff from Curtin's high intensity visualization lab, so the Hive as it's called. And so students have been able to put their ideas forward to professional and senior academics at the university and get feedback on how to shape and design their progress. So again, there's this massive connection of real world engagement, collaboration across a range of stakeholders. Tim and I have sort of become a deadly duo in terms of a team. So this year, during the midst of COVID, round about Easter time, we were looking at what can we do, what can we bring to offer our students to create some really meaningful experiences and give them a voice in the response to COVID in our state. Now, just as we were conceiving of this idea, the West Australian Government, through the Public Sector Commission, opened up to the West Australian public their I Think platform. It's an ideas management platform, and the idea was that everyone in Western Australia had the opportunity to contribute ideas and potential solutions to problems that were facing us all as we navigated through the COVID space. Some of these related to health and well-being, some of them related to caring for the elderly, some related to economic and financial concerns, and others related to the broader community impacts of COVID. So Tim and I thought, well, why not look at this platform and let students contribute to that platform, and why not also ask, can we take some of the problems that are presented and let students really tackle those through a design thinking process and begin to come to the stage where they can propose real world, well-informed solutions to some of the challenges that were facing us. This caught the interest of some of the people behind the WA Innovation Hub who were driving the I Think platform, and we met Gemma Green and Professor Fiona Wood. Now, Professor Fiona Wood is probably a name well known to many Australians and well known internationally. She's an innovator in her own right. She's a world-renowned surgeon. She essentially developed the plastic skin that is used in burn surgery, and she continues to engage with and contribute to all levels of scientific and community projects, both around Australia and here specifically in Western Australia. When Fiona had the opportunity, she immediately stepped in and offered her time and her expertise to present a real-world challenge. In fact, she ended up offering 2 real-world challenges to high school students. So we convened one day at John Curtin College of the Arts. We had 16 students in a room with a large screen in front of us, and Fiona Wood appeared on the screen. Fiona took us on a guided tour of her hospital environment, and she showed how difficult it is to manage the possibility of a COVID positive patient coming into an operating environment. Now, we learned that in a burn surgery, the temperature is elevated to 32 degrees because the human body with severe burns cannot manage and maintain its own and regulate its own body temperature. We also learned that very often patients are brought into the operating theatre with burns who haven't had full imaging, so quite often in that 32-degree heat, surgeons will need to wear lead jackets and lead suits to protect themselves in case of the need to use x-rays. And there were a range of other factors that came into it. We talked about the increasing incidence of obese patients. We talked about the need to move patients during surgery to harvest tissue for skin grafts. And Fiona was able to show us inside the operating theatre of how the hospital was managing the potential for contamination from aerosol transmission of COVID. The innovations were not significant, to be honest. In the rapid response, the best short-term solution that could be found was to simply protect all the equipment and as many surfaces as possible with plastic, and then use a very rigorous cleaning regime after the event to try and minimise any ongoing threats from the virus. So in a 1 hour interactive Zoom presentation, Fiona engaged with the students, showed us around her space, and offered forward these two problems. So the first problem was, how do we better manage and limit and mitigate against the possibility of COVID transmission in a positive patient coming into this burns environment? And secondly, and this was a special request from Fiona, was is there a way to more effectively manage and more safely move large patients so that they are protected and so that the staff who need to move them are also protected in that environment? Even during the course, as soon as Fiona put that suggestion forward, during the course of the presentation, we already had students who are firing up software and starting to map out designs for some engineering solutions. Admittedly, some of the early ideas did look like a rotisserie, and I'm not sure that they fully understand. But it's the first idea that springs to mind, is that if we can create a way of simply rotating people. Then as we progress forward through the engagement with bioengineers, more questioning from Fiona, really taking a deep dive into the empathy element, we were able to understand that there's a whole lot of other factors that come into play as well. Patients are intubated. They have tubes going in and out of all parts of their body. They have all sorts of monitoring devices attached to them. And as a consequence, it's not a simple matter of just spinning them around on a spit. So there was a range of ideas put forward. A few weeks later, we held a pitch presentation where students from 12 schools around Western Australia, 12 teams from schools around Western Australia were able to come forward to John Curtin College of Art and pitch their ideas to representatives from the Ministry of Health, representatives from the Ministry of Education, representatives from the Ministry of Jobs, Tourism, Science and Innovation. Fiona Wood was part of the ceremony. We gave ownership of the event over to students. Students compared and managed the event. And through the course of this process, students had access to mentors from a range of places, including University of Western Australia, Engineers Australia, from Curtin University, from individuals who put forward their time and expertise to offer as mentors. And students learned incredibly, in their own terms, about the content that they needed to be able to design potential solutions. And 12 solutions were pitched on that day. 2 of the solutions involved artificial intelligence. And that caught the interest of Cisco through the Innovation Central that operates out of Curtin's Bentley campus. And so those students have been invited to consider taking their ideas forward so that Cisco can begin to investigate the possibilities of those moving forward. So that the AI and voice activation aspects mean that a surgeon and other staff in the operating theatre can utilise their voice and other functions to automate some processes without having to touch things. So there's a whole lot of really interesting factors there, and these have potential to play out into the future. STEM for Innovation is what we call the program, and it's emerging, and we're beginning to engage more and more different sorts of industries and different sorts of community concerns, and trying to find problems and challenges that go well beyond the immediate and the future connections to COVID, as was our original conception. So this has grown. We piloted that program with expressions of interest from more than 60 schools. We eventually ran with 22 schools and over 700 kids working on this idea, and over 3 weeks, a range of amazing possibilities were put forward. There were some interesting possibilities too that were not discounted out of hand. Someone said launch the patients into space. And as we thought about it more, as we started thinking about anti-gravity, and a group of students started thinking about the possibilities of using maglev technology, the sorts of technology that lifts monorails and electric trains off the rails so they can run at such high speeds. So what began as a very simple sort of off-the-cuff idea began to evolve into a high-level, complex solution that has the potential to play out in a whole range of places globally and potentially into the space race as well. So where does that leave us? What I've tried to do is I've tried to be clever and use the alphabet as my mechanism. I ended up getting stuck on C. So all of my key elements begin with the letter C. And the first of them is connection. Is that, as I've demonstrated through the examples I've given, is real-world activity is the key to this focus. And that means that schools have to take down their walls, universities have to take down their walls and allow their students to engage with the broader society, broader community, broader industry, and broader government entities that really do drive and carry us forward through our institutions, through our businesses, and through all of our creative and cultural endeavours that we engage with. And as we move forward, connection will be one of those key markers of a high-quality learning experience. Community is everything. The days of an insular organisation are gone. The need for connection means that the role of networks and communities become an incredibly important part of the process. Every member organisation has to become a contributor, as do the students entering into this learning process. And in return, everyone gains value. Everyone is rewarded and is able to draw value back from the processes that are created. It could be that students are learning and getting good experience with developing their skills, their capabilities, their insights into what's moving forward. It can be that the industry or community groups are developed, like with the Lian, are getting assets that they can use to carry their mission forward. And they're also, at the extreme end, is that high level of genuine innovation and invention, new products, new processes, new ways of doing business that can carry us forward into the future and start to transform the way that we live. Context is everything. So often in the past, certainly my school years, we sat down at a desk in a classroom with pencil and paper and we did exercises that were decontextualized. They had no real world connection, to try and draw the links between different sorts of maths and different insights into physical concepts without practical engagement, without real world vision of how they play out in life. It was a very heartless and soulless sort of learning experience. And with the wealth, the way that the world has changed over time, the notion of engagement can't be dismissed readily. We have to think about real world experience and real world context. All of these connections and communities provide the context and thereby provide relevance and personal meaning for students to engage at deep levels. Collaboration, another big C. Collaboration is everything. We very often see cooperative learning where we parcel out little tasks and then bring them together at the end. Genuine collaborative experience requires positive interdependence. Everyone needs to rely on everyone else to get their part of the job done, but also to feed and inform and to derive meaning from all the different phases and parts of the project. Everyone needs to know how the whole thing is going to come together. So collaboration is beginning to become a key part of our learning experiences. And this is moving beyond simple group work. This is actually getting into really deep, high-level project-based engagement where collaboration is key. Different skills and expertise come into play and everyone learns and develops insights about the whole process. Credentialing is another big one. We've seen just in the last few weeks that the major global MOOC platform edX is now announcing sub-bachelor engagement, which means that somewhere between the high school level and the bachelor degree level of university, there is a new range of credentials. We've already got the MicroMasters. Curtin University operates a range of MicroMasters programs where you can build stackable credentials. You do some of your training through a platform like edX, you do some of it through other platforms, and eventually you do a little bit of study at the university, and together you have the necessary requirements for a specific qualification. But I think those high-level, top-level qualifications are probably going to start to change as we know them. We're actually going to see a lot more bespoke credentialing, where students are able to map out and create their own pathways, their own collections of evidence of learning. And so they'll be seeking out learning experiences that provide them credentials down at micro and nano level in many cases, that can be used as high quality evidence and recognition of their learning, which they can bundle together and create a bespoke qualification that they can take from different employer to different contexts, across different contexts, to really position themselves and to keep track of where they are with their learning of skills and capabilities and broad knowledge base. So that credentialing is something we're already seeing in play. I'd remind you to look at Arizona State University's new Trusted Learner Network is one example of how things are moving in that way. As we start to use more and more digital platforms, here I am sitting on video to begin with, communication becomes key. The ability in the past was to sit down in a room to be able to pitch an idea to somebody. That has to be able to be done across a range of modalities now. You have to be able to present to clients, to potential employers, to all sorts of people about the work that you're doing in such a way that genuine communication occurs so that they can understand. I don't know who it's attributed to. I believe it was Einstein that said that if you can't explain it to a 7-year-old, you don't understand it yourself. That whole idea of being able to take complex ideas, to take high-level work and communicate it across a range of different contexts, a range of different platforms these days. This will also need to translate into virtual worlds, into this online space, and also maintaining the existing face-to-face experiences that we're all very, very familiar with. So communication will become a key part of the learning experience. Co-creation is another thing that derives from this. Out of collaboration comes co-creation, is that the materials and the products that are created by all participants. I think the days of the individual essay, the individual project work are well behind us. They serve very little purpose. They may streamline the process of assessment for educators. They may appease vanity and ego at some level, but essentially they serve very little purpose beyond administrative functions around learning. They don't support deep, rich, engaged learning. In many cases, there's always going to be exceptions to the rule. But co-creation seems to be the key, working together to create and to make new things. Change. We've discovered this year that we can adapt to change very, very quickly when we need to. Change is constant. Many years ago, I worked with Alvin Toffler as his stage manager, and that was the one thing, is the only thing we can count on is change. Change is always there. We try to pretend that there's a status quo, and there never is. Somewhere bubbling away, eddying away somewhere, there are the signs of change. Knowing where the change will take us, and Ruben Puentendura at the moment through the Shaping Edu community is doing a lot of work around black swan experiences. Those unpredictable events that create upheaval and disruption and push us into new directions that were previously not considered as possible. And as a consequence, the ability to understand change, the ability to change track, to divert course, to incorporate new information, the speed of inquiry that's driving our development of new knowledge across the world through scientific processes. And we've seen that again through the development of COVID vaccines and other things. We work very, very quickly. We begin to understand. And just like developing new software products, the whole process of scientific knowledge development is an agile process. And increasingly, we need to understand that we need to constantly be able to shift and change our understanding and our insights based on new information, based on new criteria, new expectations, new ways forward, and new developments in our world. The skill of learning in itself becomes one of the key things. It's the skill of being able to learn and adapt that will allow us to deal with change more effectively. Choice. This is what frightens a lot of institutions, is that increasingly we're seeing more and more providers stepping forward and saying, we can offer you new ways to learn. Some people are doing it, some organisations are doing it free of charge. They're allowing students to engage in learning in all sorts of interesting ways that make no financial demands upon a student. Students can learn when they want to, where they want to. They can choose to go with a government provider through a school or a university. They can go to a private university. They can go to a private provider. They can turn to Google and do courses through there. There's a whole range of new opportunities that provide new incentives for all participants, not only the learners, but also those providing the learning experiences, to create more meaning and more value for that experience over time. Increasingly, learners start to have increasing choice, increasing opportunity, and increasing effect in how and when and what they are able to learn. That then brings a certain degree of responsibility to the learner. They need to be able to collect and manage the evidence and the recognition of their learning. So they need to start to accumulate, to find effective ways to accumulate the high quality evidence that will be required to move across different employment contexts, different working contexts, to move into different situations where they will be asked to work and apply skills and knowledge in all sorts of different ways. So being able to collect experiences, learning experiences, and collect evidence of their learning is really important. That then demands that they need to be able to then curate it. Like every good museum, it has a massive collection of assets. I've been watching a documentary about the Victorian Albert. It has millions and millions of assets, and only a fraction of those are ever on display at any given time, and that requires a process of curation. When I go and look for a new context or a new employer, I need to curate that massive collection of resources that I have into a meaningful set of materials that I can present in a way that presents me at my best and highlights those capabilities that I have that are most valuable to the new context that I'm entering. So that means that I need to become an adept curator, and becoming a curator is now part of my learning process. The culmination of all these effects is customization, is that what we used to know as a traditional university pathway, and these will stay in place for quite some time. There's a whole lot of legacy factors and dependencies that influence the speed of change in some of these areas. To become a medical practitioner, you still need to meet medical board requirements. You still need to meet state registration and licensing requirements. You still need to meet a whole lot of professionally defined requirements. And at the moment, that generally includes completing some sort of university qualification against known standards and known quality levels. So there's the whole quality framework dimension that comes into this. As more and more independent and external providers come into this space of learning, students will be able to customize more and more. The standard of learning opportunities will increase across the board, and we will see fewer and fewer opportunities for those opportunistic sort of cowboys, the fly-by-night organisations that come in and then run away quickly. Increasingly, there'll be a lot more accountability, and that accountability will be to the learner as well as to the regulating authorities. Students will be able to customise all aspects of their learning in across a range of platforms. They'll be able to choose which parts they want to do at university, which parts they want to do at high school, which parts they want to do through technical and further training, and which parts they want to do through work integrated learning or industry provided learning experiences. Over time, the learner becomes the platform. The learner becomes the vehicle and the director and the subject of their own learning. Increasingly, it is the learner themselves that is being taken through as the subject. They are developing themselves. They are developing their own capabilities. They're developing their insights. They are positioning themselves to be more contributory, more useful, and more valuable to society as a whole, and in particular to future employers, or having the skills and assets to create their own opportunities through entrepreneurial activity, through innovation, and through building their own businesses and opportunities like that. So I think that's a snapshot of where I think the future of education is going. Thank you for your time. If you wish to contact me, I'm pretty easy to find, and I'm sure there'll be some details on the EDUTech website. Thank you very much for attending, and I should be hovering around during the question and answer session soon. Thank you.